Let me.
I don't do it when I'm here by myself. I figure
That's just weird and sad.
that is weird and sad.
All right. Yep, we're good. Everything's working, Ed. Good job, man.
Finally,
Yeah, that's
figured
fine.
out the subtleties that is Zoom. The Zoom.
And this is a one thing episode, so I'd like to go on the record with a formal protest. I have to work really hard for these episodes, so let's cut it
Yeah.
out, okay?
Yeah, no, I know. I was whipping through my stuff. I will try as best I can to copy and paste, but
Cool.
so
That's fine. Oh, what about the is the live transcript available in Zoom? Do you know?
oh, you know what? Let's see.
Hold on, maybe I can find it.
No,
Select
I can.
the language. Done.
Yeah,
Yeah. Do you have it turned on?
I do. Yeah,
All right, awesome. So we solved
So-
all of our problems. The world is a better place today.
clearly, the world is a better place. And here is, I assume, Jordan.
How is everybody doing today?
It is Jordan, but you never know. We're good, Jordan.
Good.
So glad to hear. How
Yeah.
you doing there, Greg?
Fantastic, Jordan. How are you?
Doing well. See, any guests with us today?
No. It's been a while. I think when was the last? Been a lot of shows with guests lately.
Yeah, I feel like maybe the last show might have been like the last show of the year, maybe?
No, our best books of 2024 was the last show. That January 10th.
All right, well, close enough.
Yeah.
All right, let me go ahead and get some levels for everybody. I'll start with you, Ed. Can I please get a countback from 5 for you?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Awesome, sounding great. And Ron, can I please get a countback from 5 for you?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, awesome, sounding great. Got about 2.5 minutes here until showtime.
Great.
Hey, Greg.
And Ron, I get a chance to practice one of my lines. That's one of my lines in Wonka. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Really?
Yeah.
When does he say that?
When Augustus Gloop goes up the pipe. 5,
Oh my
4,
God.
3,
That's
2,
right. That's-
1.
That's hysterical.
Do you send somebody up a pipe live
yeah,
on
how
stage?
do you do that on stage? How's that
It's
done?
actually pretty cool. We have this a half pipe. It's a half pipe, and the kid gets down and he puts she's playing Augustus, puts his face in like this little portal, right? And you see that, and then as the pressure's building, she stands up, and then there's another portal. And she goes up to this, and then when she gets to that, and I do the hand gesture with the up, she raises a brown curtain over her, which is the chocolate flowing, right? So it goes like this. So
That's cool.
yeah,
All right, and Ron, we are all set and live streaming. Everything's working great.
It's fantastic.
yep. And Greg has issued a formal HR complaint about One Thing shows. They're
They're too brutal.
too hard. It's
Yeah.
creating a hostile work environment.
I can see
I
that.
don't believe those are the words I used.
1 minute.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. I don't think of that, but yeah, that would be.
Well, hopefully the transcript will help.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Who opens?
You do.
I do. Okay. I should probably get that ready then too, shouldn't I?
Shout out to Geraldine.
Oh, and just as a reminder,
Like I said.
because we upgraded the X account, don't forget you have access to Grok
Grok.
AI. And also, we don't have a really effectively a character limit on the Twitter account anymore. I think it's like 24,000 characters.
Okay.
So the
Really?
days of 240 characters are gone for premium users. Yeah.
Really? Wow. That's interesting.
So I can use full quotes now, and I don't have to worry about cramming it in and getting it wrong. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, the last time we did this show was episode 500, Greg, back in July of last year.
All right, we're coming up to showtime. You ready for your counting?
Absolutely.
All right, have a great show. Going in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to the Soul of Enterprise, Business in the Knowledge Economy, sponsored by Woodard, building your ideal practice with coaching, education, community, and resources. I'm Ed Kless with my friend and co-host Ron Baker, and on today's show, folks, one thing for 2025. Hey, Ron.
Hey, Ed, how's it going?
Good, good. I can't promise that this will be the only one thing show for 2025 , but I figured I'd name it that.
We seem to do a couple a year, at least the last couple of years. So this is part 5. So
part 5, fifth time we've done one thing.
Yep.
But it's great because it does spur me to go back and review all of my one things. As those of you who are not in the know on this, is Ron and I both keep a one thing journal. And this was by the philosopher. Who is the philosopher again, Ron?
A.J. Jacobs.
A.J. Jacobs. There you go.
Yeah, he's an author, not a philosopher. I don't think he's a philosopher. But.
Philosopher. Okay. And made a suggestion on Russ Roberts' podcast, the EconTalk, that you should keep a one thing journal. He keeps a one thing journal, or just one thing a day. You just write the date down, and then something that struck you that day, and it can be a quote, it can be just something that happened, or just one thing, any one thing. So we're dipping into that, and Ron, I'm going to reach back to March of 17th of 2024 for this one, and I don't think I shared this one on the previous show, but this is a quote. It's from a short story by Ring Lardner, and I just love the phraseology of this. Right, and here's it. Shut up, he explained.
I love it.
He explained. Shut up, he explained. So there you go. Shut up, he explained.
That reminds me, Tom Bodette, he wrote about Homer, Alaska. He's the guy that you hear on the Motel 6 commercials. We'll leave the light on for you.
Well,
yep. Eddie, he talks about Homer, Alaska, which is like the end. I think the book is the end of the road. It is literally the last town in Alaska. It's an hysterical book. I mean, the characters in this book were loosely, I think, Northern Exposure was based on this. Anyway, one of his lines was, he talks about some character and he says, he said, he's telling some story and he puts at the end of it, he lied, he lied.
Yeah.
So he explained. That's good.
He explained.
I like that. Well, this is one that we've said multiple times, but I give total credit to Jonah, even though I think somebody else said this. I think I've heard this way back before even Jonah, but he talked about many firms try to be a vet and a taxidermist so they can say either way you get your cat back. And that's become my favorite line, and it's just a way to illustrate that strategy and positioning in your firm is all about trade-offs. Tim Williams had a great slide to illustrate this too. He had a picture of a video store, and back when there was video stores, and it said family videos, and right under it said adult videos. It's like, pick one, right?
Pick one.
So same concept.
Yep. All right, this one is from Peter Savadnik. And I assume that he was a guest on EconTalk, but could have picked this up from another thing. But it's a quote. He says, "There is nothing more pathetic than an older person who cares what a younger person thinks is cool."
Oh, wow.
I really like that idea. There's nothing more pathetic than an older person who cares about what a younger person thinks is cool.
Wow, is that true? Yeah. What's that line? Okay, boomer.
Yeah, okay, boomer. Yeah.
Utter contempt. Yeah. Nothing new under the sun. I think one of us had, maybe you said this before, but it's caught my eye from Winston Churchill that socialism is the gospel of envy.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I was just just on a debate earlier today with someone who posted, supply side, the trickle down economics, blah 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 blah, and I'm just trying to explain to these. He's like, demand creates supply, demand creates supply. I'm like, really? What do you demand that you don't know about? How can you demand something you don't know about? Well, how can I buy something if I don't have the money to do it? How do you earn money? By supplying something to someone else of value. It's just.
I've got news for him. North Korea has the same demand.
Yeah.
As we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's the supply that's the issue.
Yeah, they don't supply.
Yeah, any poverty-stricken country that's the issue. Yeah.
Yep. What can we? I mean, this is the entire trick, and I've had this conversation with both my kids. Is your job is to figure out what you can do that is of value to someone else. That's how you get jobs. What can you do that is of value to somebody else? Pretty simple.
Yeah.
And along those lines, this is a quote from Anthony Davies, and who's been a guest previously on the show. And this is his take on the William Nordhaus concept that the wealth that is kept by entrepreneurs is 2%, right? And therefore, multiply Jeff Bezos's wealth by 49, and therefore you will know how much wealth he has created outside himself. Well, this is how he says. It's a little bit slightly different take. He said, one obtains wealth in exchange for providing value to others, right? So we were just talking about this. So he says the correct phrase, 1% of the people have own 40% of the wealth, reveals the fact that 40% of the value that the 99% enjoy is created through the efforts of 1% of people.
Yeah. That's a great way to look at it, actually.
Which I really like that concept is like, no, yeah, the reason why we have all this is because these people created this stuff. So
yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Well, this is attributed to Lenin, and I think he said it, but never got the book or wherever he.
Not John Lennon.
No, the bad Lenin, not the good Lenin, the bad Lenin. He said, God, could this be more true in the Trump era? There are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen.
Yes.
Kind of how I feel with some of this stuff. I mean, have you ever seen an administration move more rapidly? And do you think he's just trying to put the other side off kilter? I mean,
absolutely. I think that is definitely part of the strategy. I think that's what was being planned from the moment on. Well, as soon as he won the election, I have no doubt that this was the conversations down at Mar-a-Lago, that they were just going to absolutely flood the zone, as it is commonly put, right? That's what they're doing. Is you can't. In fact, I have something on this later, so we'll get back to that. But there's actually a word for it.
Okay.
So this is, speaking of which, so this next one is from Elon Musk. And we'd like to take this in the context, right? The most common error of a smart engineer is to optimize a thing that should not exist.
Bingo.
Really like that. That's his contribution to the effing debate, right? Is like, what are you doing if you're making something efficient if it's not effective? It's not helping anybody in the first place. Then you're just making the system worse faster. So I really like that. The most common error of a smart engineer, and that's probably true because an engineer will probably look at the thing, goes, oh, how can I optimize it? Because it's not, but it's really the role of the architect to say, or the system architect to say, is this thing of value to somebody in the first place? That's the question. Before we give it to engineering to build, we first have to make sure that the thing is needed and wanted.
Yeah, and it's, I think, 80% of the time, it's not. 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 80% of the time, Peter Drucker said it another way, but he said there's nothing more useless than making efficient something which shouldn't be done in the first place or being done at all. Yeah, I love that. Love that. And then this one, Ed. Wisdom is, I suppose, the right use of knowledge. To know is not to be wise. To know how to use knowledge is to have wisdom. This comes from the Prince of Preachers, Charlie Spurgeon. He wrote a Christmas story from the Prince of Preachers, and it reminded me of something that Ludwig Wittgenstein used to say: "To understand is to know what to do." You know how we talk about understanding and knowledge and understanding or wisdom, right? And to understand is to know what to do. I kind of like that.
Yeah. I mean, that gets back to, what is it, Drucker's data pyramid or whatever it's called. This is it puts wisdom at the top. And then the question then becomes will we have systems, or will AI ever be capable of the creation of wisdom, which is the application of knowledge to a situation?
Yep. That's a very interesting question.
It really is. It really is. I think Drucker was pretty firmly in the camp of, no, we will not ever have those systems.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to go back and read what he had to say about that. So
I just did revisit him in his pyramid, but yeah, he doesn't get into that. But Gilder would say no.
Right, of course, George Gilder would say no. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, this one that I'm about to share now is probably the one that is most likely to have been shared on one of the 4 previous episodes, because I think it is in my One Thing journal at least 3 times. But it's one of those things that every time it comes back into my world, I put it in my One Thing journal anyway, even though I know it's a repeat. And this is a quote from Alexander Solzhenitsyn. "Let the lie come into the world. Let it even triumph, but not through me." It actually makes me choke up.
It's brilliant.
It actually makes me like I am verklempt, as we would say. It was just saying that quote is overwhelmingly profound to me.
Yeah, he's written lots of things like that make you think that. In fact, I've got one. Well, I'll bounce off yours for a minute. It's just a few down. There's something else he said. To stand up for truth is nothing. For truth, you must sit in jail. There's a guy who sat in the gulag. Gulag. He knows what he's talking about.
For years. All right. Well, let me see if I can wrap up with this one. We'll take our break. And this is semi related, but and I know another quote that I'm sure you've heard. And this is from T.S. Eliot. "If we take the widest and wisest view of a cause, there is no such thing as a lost cause, because there is no such thing as a gained cause. We fight for lost causes because we know that our defeat may be the preface to our successor's victory, though that victory itself will only be temporary. We fight rather than to keep something alive than in the expectation that it will triumph."
Love it. Love it.
That's the full quote around that. I wanted to get that one on the record.
Is that T.S. Eliot?
It's T.S. Eliot. Yes, yep. That is direct quote from T.S. Eliot. But we are up against our first break. Want to remind our listeners they can get a hold of Ron or me by sending an email to asktsoe@verisage.com. Of course, the website is The Soul of Enterprise, where you can see show notes as well as previews to upcoming shows. We do have our Patreon channel available out there at patreon.com/TSOE. There you can get a shout out, like our friend Blake Oliver did at Earmark CPE. Check him out at earmarkcpe.com. But right now, a word from our sponsors.
All clear. Back in 2.
Yeah, we were talking about I contain multitudes. I'm inconsistent. Big deal. I contain multitudes. That was actually Walt Whitman.
Ah, okay.
In his book, The Leaves of Grass, which is the book that Clinton gave to Monica Lewinsky.
Oh, really?
Who I know you have a line
quote
about.
Yeah, we may get there. That's not like the last one on the list, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, you should definitely do it. In honor of Reagan, because he used to love jokes that were actually told.
Right.
You know, and you got that from the horse's mouth, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, good stuff.
So you bring us back with wherever you want to.
Okay, I'm going to throw 3 at you, but they're all related.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. I do really like prepping for this show.
I do too. Especially when you have Kevin Williamson, you know.
He's coming up.
He's coming up. That's what I'm doing next. So
okay, you may probably get one of the ones that I've also had because it's so good.
Yeah, Williamson and G-File and Lappin are probably the most quoted people in my one thing. Maybe Gilder. Gilder is in there too, but the G-Files are just
Well, and what's cool about both Kevin Williamson and Jonah is that they are not only fodder for quotes themselves, but other quotes that they are quoting of other
constantly. Yeah. It's kind of what this is too. So,
All right, you ready for your counting?
Yep.
All right, coming back in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We're doing our One Thing show. And Ed, this one is from Kevin Williamson from, actually, this goes back to 2020 when he was still at National Review. But he was talking about history and the arc of history. You know, we've all heard that, right? The arc of history bends towards justice.
Yes.
It was one of Obama's favorite lines.
Mm-hmm.
And first off, he starts out by recounting what Robert Conquest said, the great scholar of the USSR, the Ukrainian famine, all that kind of stuff. He said, the right side of history has a Marxist twang, which is a great line. Mm-hmm. And Williamson points out, history doesn't have sides, but historians do.
Yeah.
And history does not bend inevitably towards justice or freedom. It didn't in Moscow, Hong Kong, New York City, LA. History goes where we push it. And if we don't push it, someone else will. That's why I love the line, and I forget who said it, but the Berlin Wall didn't fall because of inclement weather. It was pushed.
Agreed. So I'm actually jumping ahead on my list because I've had this, and I'm not sure where I picked this word up from, but this is a term that I saw defined called meliorism. And melior is Latin for better. So betterism. So this is the idea that progress is a real concept and that humans can interfere with natural processes in order to improve the world. Meliorism as a concept of the person and society is at the foundation of contemporary liberal democracy and human rights as a basic component of liberalism. I think that's true. So I'm kind of yes-ending Kevin, right? It's like, yes, all that's true. But I think that we have to, meliorism, I think is correct. I'm a meliorist, I guess, Ron, that I do believe that progress is a real concept and we can, and humans have to interfere with those natural processes in order to improve the world.
Right. You know, I've got a line in here from somewhere. It says, change is constant, but progress isn't.
Yes.
And this is something that Deirdre talks about. You know, no, this could all reverse.
Yes,
right?
It could. Yeah, we've got to constantly fight. What was the second law of thermodynamics and entropy? We have to constantly fight against the system tends toward disorganization.
Right. What's Jonah's favorite line? You can ignore nature, but it'll come back with pitchforks or something. Yeah. He always says that.
Yeah. Every system all systems tend to deteriorate. Now, this isn't necessarily always a bad thing, by the way. When you put cream in your coffee, you're depending upon entropy to to have the cream mixed throughout the coffee. So in some cases, entropy can be a good thing. Entropy is also a good thing with the distribution of oxygen atoms in the room. In theory, all of the oxygen atoms could organize themselves in the corner, but we would die if that were the case, right? So there are good things about entropy as well, but I think we do have to recognize that systems tend toward disorganization, and that it is a constant battle, and we have to apply human action against that state of disorganization.
Yeah, love it. I love how we're finding stuff to bounce off with each other's lines. This one would be a great ending to the foreword to a book that you wrote, and it's from Russell Banks, who's a writer. Not sure what he wrote, but I didn't look him up, but I love this line. It's "Go, my book, and help destroy the world as it is."
That's a good epigraph.
It's a good for a business book.
Yeah.
Maybe not Chesterton's Fence type stuff, but for a business book, that's good.
Yeah. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. So this was a thought that I had, and I actually mentioned that because I didn't put an author in, but I believe that and when I say we here, I'm talking about all of us collectively as humans. We have to get better at disagreeing with one another rather than being forced to agree with one another.
Say that one more time.
We have to get better at disagreeing with one another rather than being forced to agree with one another. I was contemplating that Brian Kaplan line that I love so much, which is, I can't help but think that you're trying to intimidate me into pretending to agree with you. And I thought, okay, well, so what would be the out on that? What would be the inverse of that? And it would be this, is that we should be better at disagreement. Civil, contemplative, allowing, what is tolerant. Right. Tolerate everything but intolerance kind of thought process. Then rather than being forced, we have to come to agree. And this is the idea of unity. Unity is overrated.
Oh, totally.
Right.
Totally.
Unity is overrated. Jonah Goldberg talks a lot about that too.
Yep. Mobs are unified. Gangs are unified. It's not pretty.
Yep.
Yeah, unity, qua unity is useless. Depends on what it's doing.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I know, I like that. This is from the motto of the Royal Society, which is the British Academy of Sciences. You're going to like this, Ed. Your dad would. Nullius in verba. Take nobody's word for it.
It's a verb I got in verba. Yep. Okay.
Take nobody's word for it. That's their motto. I love that. That's science.
Is that do your own research, Ron? Is that what you're saying? You need to do your own research?
Well, I think it means that, one guy can be right, even if he's alone, right?
Yes. Oh, yes, of course. So this is just a clarification of something I know we've talked about before and when used in different places. Don't immanentize the eschaton.
Yeah, William Buckley. Yep.
No. So this is why I wrote this down. So it is a German-American political theorist named Eric Vogelin. He's the one who said don't immanentize the eschaton. So I was just getting that on record that Eric Vogelin is the originator of don't immanentize the eschaton. By the way, for those of you not playing at home, immanentize the eschaton. The eschaton is the end of days. The end of the world kind of thing, and immanentize means to bring forward in time. Like one of the priests that I had in high school had a variation on it where he would say, "Boys, stop immanentizing my eschaton."
I love it. Yeah, I remember being at an NR conference, and that T-shirt was a big seller. They had that T-shirt. Yeah. I love this. It's from some Stoic philosopher, Epictetus, I think. He who laughs at himself never runs out of things to laugh at.
Amen. Amen. Gotta laugh at yourself. I'm pretty darn funny. All right, this is from Lewis Carroll. Gotta love Lewis Carroll. Always always in order. And here, do we decide questions at all? We decide the answers, no doubt, but surely the questions decide us.
Wow, that's right up there with an answer without a good question has nowhere to go.
Yeah.
I think that's Clayton Christensen, but
Yep.
that's a better way of saying it, as you would expect from Lewis Carroll.
Lewis Carroll, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Wow, I like that a lot. This is the rhino principle, and it was a favorite of the British historian Paul Johnson. He used to paint, and he'd gift paintings that he did of the rhino to authors that he knew were working on a book or a first book. And he said it was the rhino principle. A rhino is single-minded. It perceives an object and charges with everything it's got. When done, it instantly resumes browsing. And that was Paul Johnson's philosophy when it came to writing, especially about history. I just love that. What a great gift from one author to another.
Yeah.
Especially somebody like
Beautiful.
him has written, I don't know how many books he wrote, but it was a lot. And the other thing I love is somebody said about him when he died, they said, the Atlantic is more narrow than the English Channel. He loved America. He absolutely loved America. And his writing, he's got a book, The History of the United States, and it's a masterpiece, as is Modern Times, which I have not read, but the history of the American people I've read, and it is incredible.
Wow.
So,
All right. One for the list. One for the anti-library.
yep.
All right. Here is you had mentioned Kevin Williamson earlier today. This is Kevin Williamson applying Solzhenitsyn's maxim, but turning it on his head and putting J.D. Vance at the head of it. And here's what he says. Vance has turned Solzhenitsyn's maxim on its head to where it now reads, "Let the lie come into the world, but only through me.
To me.
And only if I get something good out of it." That's vicious.
Kevin has been vicious to JD lately. Yeah. Wow.
It's on point, but it's vicious.
Yep. You don't want to be at the end of his poison pen. That's something, a place I would not want to be. Wow. Well, Barbara Field, who's a historian at Columbia, said this, Ed. The habit of generational generalization shares a fallacious premise with astrology without the entertainment value. That is beautiful.
Yep. I guess we could always apply that to personality profiles as well.
Oh, that too. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Although I guess they do have entertainment value because everybody gets to sit around, take the desk. Oh, it got me.
Just absolutely nailed me. I love long walks on the beach sometimes, and sometimes I like to go to the mountains.
And if I take this 10 minutes later, I'll get a different score, but that's okay.
It'll still get you exactly right. Okay, so this is from Kat Timpf when she was being interviewed on the Reason interview with Nick Gillespie. And this is a really neat, succinct way of saying something that I've said other ways as well, and I'm sure we have all said. He says, just because I believe that government can't solve that problem doesn't mean I don't think it's a problem.
Yes. This is what Bastiat said. Just because I'm against public education does not mean I'm against education, publicly funded education. Yeah. And we're seeing this. Just because you want to get rid of the Department of Education doesn't mean you're against education. It's the antidote to the straw man fallacy, right? Yeah.
That's what's happening there.
Yep, for sure. Excellent.
All right, but we're up against the break here, Ron. So want to remind folks that they can get a hold of either one of us by sending an email to asktsoe@verisage.com. Again, the website is The Soul of Enterprise, where you can see show notes as well as previews to upcoming shows. We also love for you to rate this podcast. Go out to ratethispodcast.com/TSOE and rate this podcast. But right now, a word from our sponsors.
All clear. Back in 2.
Awesome.
Such a fun show.
It is.
How you holding in there, Greg?
I don't know. My watch is killing my arm here. It keeps.
I'm good, fellas, and you've got some live stream viewers as well, so I think they're enjoying it also.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I missed a couple at the very end,
Okay.
because I made a mistake in my editing and had to go into Twitter. Now that we have a paid account, you can edit
Right.
or posts, right? So I was
Yes.
able to go in and edit it to make sure it was at least legible to people. So I missed a few at the very end there.
All good. Alrighty.
Who's up? I
You are.
forget.
You are.
I am. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll bring us back.
Yeah. I was going to bounce it to you, but then I was like, we're right at 30. Might as well.
Yeah. The 1 minute, I don't think it was
Yeah.
up there for longer than a minute.
Yeah. Do.
Okay, I've got 3 Russian ones to throw at you. So,
Oh,
but they're quick.
always good. Always good. The Russians always good for the quote.
Especially the writers.
My next one is from Peter Block. Got a couple. I dug this out during my fight with
Oh wow.
guy on Facebook because there's just that one great
All
paragraph.
about supply side.
Say's law was not only refuted, it was implicitly reversed with cause and effect hopelessly confused into the proposition that demand creates its own supply. Take and you will be given unto.
That's the most beautiful thing I think he's ever written. That whole the supply side mandate or that chapter.
Yeah.
That is just brilliant. The only way, what he says now is the only way to keep it is to give it away. Well, you gotta give it away, meaning investing it. But it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Because there's no predetermined return. Right?
Yep.
Okay, ready for your counter?
Yes, please.
Coming back in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We're doing our one thing journals. And Ed, I don't know who said this, but it's an old KGB approach. Anybody can commit a murder, but it takes an artist to stage a suicide. I'm sure Putin understands that. That's I like that a lot. And then another one this is Anton Chekhov, which this one I really liked. The task of a writer is not to solve the problem, but to state the problem correctly. Now that's interesting for a fiction writer because, you know how a nonfiction book, there's always an ending chapter, some possible reforms, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you don't have to solve it. Just state it correctly. Diagnose it right.
Yeah.
And then this is Leo Tolstoy from 3 Methods of Reform and Pamphlets that I guess he wrote in 1900. He said, in our world, everybody thinks of changing humanity and nobody thinks of changing himself.
Yep.
Amen to that.
Yep.
Clean your room.
Clean your make your bed.
Make your bed. Yeah. Before you solve climate change.
Yeah. All right. So this is very much in alignment with the second one, the second quote that you just shared, Ron. This is from Peter Block. And he said this in his newsletter of September 27th, 2024. The habits or protocols of convening are based on the foundational idea that questions bring us together and answers keep us apart.
That's great. Typical Block.
I think we have to like parse that a little bit. The habits or protocols of convening. What he's talking about there is meetings. He likes to refer to this as meetings as a convening, a coming together, right? Which I think is great. But the habits and protocols are surrounding meetings are based on this, what he calls foundational idea that questions are what call us together, but answers are what divide us. And what he's advocating for is no, maybe what we should be doing here is saying it's the questions that should divide us. You know, allow us to explore more of these things. So anyway, yes, it's brilliant.
It's kind of one of the things that makes the Q-Force exercise so powerful.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
yes. Yeah. Let's come together to develop questions rather than come together to develop answers.
Yeah, I just was talking to a group yesterday that we were talking about civil discourse, and I quoted Peter Block, his line, "Be forewarned, in this discussion, in this debate, I'm likely to take your side."
Yeah.
Something like that. It's brilliant.
Yeah, that's actually Peter Block quoting Peter Kostenbaum.
Oh, right. That's
it's
true.
It's actually Kostenbaum that he is. Be forewarned that I'm likely to take your side. That if you debate me, I am likely to take your side. That's the quote.
That's right. He's the philosopher on death. That's from that book.
He did pass away, by the way, in early this year. So he'll be on our list next year. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh wow. Okay.
He was 100. God bless him.
Yeah. Wow. Booker T. Washington, Ed, said this: "I have never had much patience with those always ready to explain why one cannot succeed. I have always had high regard for the man who could tell me how to succeed." That's something like Thomas Sowell would say.
Yeah, that's great. Love that. Well, this one came into my world on October 8th, so it was probably a reflection on the first year after October 7th in Israel. And this is a quote from Golda Meir. She says, "We can forgive them for killing our children. We cannot forgive them for forcing us to kill their children. We will only have peace with them when they love their children more than they hate us."
That is so powerful. That is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. This is something that I learned from Jonah. He quotes Seymour Martin Lipset, who's a historian. "To know only one country is to know none."
Yep, that's in my list. You took one of mine from. Yep,
okay.
Yep.
This is from the Jonah's G file, Jonah Goldberg G file that he writes twice a week from February 1st, 2023. And Jonah added to that, "Not even know your own if you know only one." In other words, if you don't travel, or study, I guess, but traveling, I think, really brings it home, and be able to compare without a relative comparison.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even know your own country, let alone the other one.
Yeah.
It's really that is a deeply profound thought when you really start to dig into it.
It absolutely is. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's, and I think it extends out. It's like you can't know your city until you visited other cities. You can't know one religion until you've visited and understood another. Because it's always in context. I think that what's great about that quote is that it can be expanded out to other things as well, right? Not just your country.
Not the country, yeah, neighborhood, mm-hmm. School, no, it's really profound.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, that's one of those. It applies all. It's sort of like the colossal misunderstanding of our time is the assumption that insight will work. That you can apply that to family relations and international relations. It's like this
all the way. It scales.
It scales. It definitely scales. I love this one, Ron. This is E.O. Wilson is a two-time Pulitzer Prize winning author. Harvard entomologist. He spent most of his career studying ants that possess highly egalitarian characteristics. And this is his quote on communism. 4 words. He says, "Great idea, wrong species."
Species. I know. I love that. And, I've actually read a couple of his books. He's a very fascinating guy.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, in fact, I have that somewhere too in here. But that's a great line. It's a great line. This comes from Karl Marx, Ed, in 1847. Without slavery, you have no cotton. Without cotton, you have no modern industry. Cause slavery to disappear, and you will have wiped America off the map of nations. I wonder if Marx ever got tired of being wrong.
About that?
About anything.
About anything.
I mean, cotton wasn't a significant UK export until 1800, decades after the Industrial Revolution began. It was 5% of the UK's GDP. Mm-hmm. It's just, wow. I don't know how you extrapolate that to wiping America off the map of nations.
No. Although I have to disagree with you, Ron, because this came up in my Facebook debate earlier. Marx did get one thing. He at least understood that you need to control the means of production rather than the means of consumption.
That's true. That was a big. I don't even think I don't think Keynesians get that.
No.
Today. They think it's all demand, like your debating partner. Yeah.
Interlocutor.
Yes. Good point. I stand corrected. That's a great point. That's another thing. I remember reading that in Gilder's Wealth and Poverty and just thinking, oh my God, that's brilliant. Mm-hmm. Even Marx understood that it was the supply side that you were after, not the demand side. You can't appropriate demand, right? But I can take your factory.
Right. It's not lazy bums of the world unite.
This is getting out of hand.
It's out of hand. All right.
We're not even drinking.
No, I know. All right. Did you have a Rene Girard earlier? No. Okay. All right.
But we've talked about.
Yes. So this is Rene Girard observed that in a world purged of sources of authority, there is still one way to achieve status: concern for victims. Victimism, Girard writes, uses the ideology of concern for victims to gain political or economic or spiritual power. Dang.
Man, that's good. Wow. This is, I can't pronounce this Polish name. Stefan Kieselowski.
Kieselowski, okay.
He lived from 1911 to 1991. He was a Polish hero. He helped break communism in that country. This is out of FEE. Lawrence Reed, great historian, used to be president of FEE. He's got a few quotes from this guy, Stefan. The use of coercion comes from not believing the argument. If you have to coerce somebody to do something, it's probably not a good idea. Good ideas don't require This is one of, by the way, Jordan Peter's founding principle of his ARC, the Alliance for, I forget what it stands for, regenerating something, but that's just a great thought. He also said, a polemic with stupidity ennobles it needlessly. And last one, where language declines, fiction takes its place. How true is that?
Yes, brilliant.
It kind of goes back to the Solzhenitsyn, don't live by lies, right?
Yeah. Well, this is one that has clearly influenced a lot, Ron, because we've talked a lot about this since this has come into our lives. And this is a quote from Jonah Goldberg. The narcissism of small differences is one of the great drivers of human conflict.
Yep.
And let's say I want to talk a little bit about this narcissism of small differences, but this idea that it's you only have fights between people that agree on a lot already, because you
and they're the most intense.
Right, that's right. That's right. And
Yeah.
just take something as simple as baseball. If you don't care about baseball at all, you're not going to have a feeling that or understand why the Phillies are the most horrible baseball team in the history of the world, right? You're not going to care about that.
Or there
right?
should be a pitch clock or not, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So it's this narcissism of small differences. This belief that that I have the greatest idea about these tiny little things. This little words. One in religion is consubstantiation versus transubstantiation. And all right, yes, there's lots of arguments for that, but that's a narcissism of small differences. If you don't believe in Jesus to begin with, you really don't care which one you're going for, right?
Right. And of course, this is Python's Life of Brian, right? Where they have a famous scene, and it's also in South Park. It's about goth kids, and there's a scene in South Park that is kind of playing off the Python scene. It's hysterical.
The Judean People's Front versus the People's Front of Judea. We hate those guys.
And what was it? The Fighting Santa Club. That podcast where they talked about the Fighting Santa clubs. That was outrageously funny. The beards being real or fake, and it's just and they're coming to blows. And the woman sitting there, you guys, you're Santa Claus.
They're fighting each other at this conference. This really happened, guys. You look up
the Fighting Santa Club.
The Fighting Santa Fight Club Santa or something. It was really good. Anyway, up against our last break, want to remind you can get a hold of Rod or me by sending an email to asktsoa@verisage.com. The website is the Soul of Enterprise. We can see show notes, previews to upcoming shows. But right now we want a word from our sponsors, including our great sponsor, Woodard.
My dad laughed his ass off at that Fight Club.
Well, it's off the charts. Insane.
It just gets more absurd as it goes.
Yeah.
They try and block the guy from entering the conference.
All right, we got to get our stuff together because our audience is very confused now. If you haven't read the piece, it's
it's like a 45-minute podcast or a part of a podcast. It's just a riot. Wow.
I think it was a This American Life going way back. It goes back. It was like a 10-year-old show.
Yeah, that's right. It was. Yeah.
All right. Did I go bring it? Or no, I just did narcissism and small differences. So yeah,
I'll bring us back and I'll.
Okay.
This one you have probably. This is from EconTalk.
Okay.
I'm still around 23. Some of these things I have. It's crazy.
No, I gave one from earlier, but these are all from 2024 and later. So. That's good stuff.
You're going to remember this one, I'm sure.
Back in 30 seconds.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, Greg, there's a new login from Atlanta, Georgia on our X account. I hope we're not being spoofed.
No, that was me.
Yeah, I know.
You guys are I had to log in to the web version to edit that tweet.
Figured.
Post, whatever the hell they call them.
Whatever. Ex post facto something.
Is there an official name for it?
Ex post.
Really? Ex post?
Yeah.
It's called a post now. Yeah, it's a post.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Greg, there's a great line about this. I think X versus Twitter is the equivalent of a New Yorker of we will never refer to Avenue of the Americas, or we never refer to it as the Avenue of Americas. It's always 6th Avenue.
Right.
I have to be completely honest, Ed. The first time I heard Avenue of the Americas, I had to look it up on a map. I had no idea what the hell.
And it's been that for 40 years.
Wow.
Are you ready for your counting?
Yeah.
You bet.
All right, come back in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We're doing our One Thing journals. And Ed, this comes from EconTalk. It's episode 880 from February 13th, 2023. Adam Mastriania was the guest. And
Oh, yeah.
he said, science progresses on its strongest link, not its weakest link. The weakest link is discarded or ignored. He said, dump peer review. It's failed.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he said, being published does not equal truth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's powerful because we know most of the stuff that gets published is not correct. It
Right.
couldn't be. Otherwise, we'd be advancing all the time. I mean, it would be overwhelming. A
Yeah.
good chunk of it has to be wrong or banal or just
Yeah.
confirming or another way of confirming what we already know,
Yeah.
right? Information or knowledge takes us by surprise when it's new. Innovation, creativity takes us by surprise.
Yep. Absolutely. This is from a book called Ronald Reagan, the Peacemaker by William Iboden.
Yep, which I read.
It's 2 paragraphs, so you're gonna have to bear with me. So, there's an office building in Boston, and all of the workers in this Boston building had gathered around their televisions to watch the speech. We're talking about Reagan's Pointe-du-Hoc speech. As one of them who is there recalls, when Reagan comes to that wonderful peroration, and you hear the surviving Ranger veterans say that these are the boys at Pointe-du-Hoc, he started to cry. And he looked around and sees all of his coworkers, dozens of them sobbing as well. The office was the Walter Mondale campaign headquarters. And that is a president who can bring our country together, even with his political opponents are brought to tears.
Yeah, I remember
that's what we are missing today, Ron.
That's a great book, by the way. And I learned some things that I didn't know about Reagan, but that was one of them. That was really interesting. And I challenge anybody to watch that speech and not choke up. And I think Reagan only breaks once or maybe twice. In that, I don't know how he got through it because he's looking at these guys. He's looking at their daughters, and their sons. They're sitting right in front of him. They're right up on the cliff that they scaled. He gave another speech that day down below, and he did break up at that one, and it's another great one. But Peggy Noonan wrote the
Pointe-du-Hoc speech. Yeah,
and it just that's incredibly powerful. That talk. This is. I'm glad this popped up because this is. It shows you how smart this guy is. Stephen Kotkin.
Oh yeah.
On not only Russia, Ukraine, but on China and Taiwan. He's always on with Peter Robinson on Uncommon Knowledge. He's Princeton historian, writing a 3-part book, on Stalin. I think he's working on part 3 as we speak. And nobody knows more about Russian history than this man. Nobody. I mean, he has read everything in the archives that have been opened. And Peter Robinson, in fact, asked him, look, you've spent more time in the Russian archives than anybody in the world. What one thing did you take away? And he said that they were true believers.
Yeah,
They really believed in communism. He said this about Russia and Ukraine and China and Taiwan. If they take it, they can't have it. And then he said he sees the Ukraine armistice like the North-South Korea. It's a war of attrition. We don't have the will to win. He said that on Uncommon Knowledge in February 14, 2023. He turned out to be absolutely right. That's where he lays out the 6 or 7 scenarios of how Ukraine war could end. I think this is what Trump is trying to go for. It's got to end. And it might be an armistice, and you're not going to get everything you want.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that.
So,
all right. This is from David Hawkins. This is his strategy of his consolidation of company strategy in one sentence. increase sales, cut costs, and make the bastards work harder.
I do love that.
There we go. That's all we need. That's all we need.
That's everybody's strategy, right? All accounting firms have that strategy. Yep. Yep. I love that. I also love this. See if you can figure out who said this. Facts do not speak for themselves. They speak for or against competing theories. Facts divorced from theories or visions are mere isolated curiosities.
Wow. Who?
Thomas Sowell.
Mm.
That's brilliant. I like, Stephen Landsberg's the guy said without theories, facts, it's just like reading the phone book.
Right.
Right.
All right, I'll sneak one last one in here, Ron. This is from Gordon McKenzie. He was in my book list last year, right? And I love this. He said, "It is not the business of authority figures to validate genius because genius threatens authority. The ghost of past successes outvote original thinking."
Wow. I love it. Oh boy, that's deep and true. Yeah. Wow.
Yep. All right.
Like that. All right, Ed, what's coming up next week?
Next week, Ron, we are going to talk the boardroom brawl. This is a topic suggested by one of our listeners. Will purpose stand tall or will profits take it all?
All right. It sounds like a great brawl. I look forward to it.
All
See you in
right.
167 hours.
This has been The Soul of Enterprise, Business in the Knowledge Economy. Sponsored by Woodard. Building your ideal practice with coaching, education, community, and resources. Join us next week on Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. That's noon Pacific. In the meantime, feel free to visit us at www.thesoulofenterprise.com.
All clear. Great show.
All right.
Jordan.
Thanks, Jordan.
No problem. Hope you all have a great weekend.
You too.
All right.
Take care.
All right. Streaming on bonus, Ron. Oh, no. Overtime. Not bonus yet.
All right.
Yep, this is overtime. I would like to amend my complaint to HR about the One Thing episode. I had to take a ton of ridiculous notes, which is great. You guys flew through those, and it was awesome. Here's a fun fact about Zoom transcripts, which we currently have running in the background, just sort of an inside baseball look into the production of Soul of Enterprise. We've turned on Zoom transcripts, and when you highlight words inside of the panel in Zoom that shows the transcript, and you hit the copy keyboard shortcut, you get the little noise from your computer that says, "We're sorry, you can't do that.
Oh,
You
wow.
cannot copy and paste from Zoom transcripts." They've disabled that feature inside of their app.
that's challenging.
Yeah, isn't that weird? Yeah. At any rate, so during the show today, you guys flew through quotes and they were amazing, and you can find all of them in the show notes. You'd mentioned Northern Exposure, and I just wanted to say how wonderful that show is. And recently, about a year ago, it fell onto a streaming platform. So you can go out there and watch. It's not widescreen. It's really old, right?
Yeah,
But you can go out and watch Northern Exposure, and you can, for example, you can watch not Joel, that was the main character, but the guy who did the radio shows, right? You can
Yes.
listen to his monologues at the beginning. Like, yeah, it's a really, really fun walk down memory lane for many of us.
Yeah. He ended up being in My Big Fat Greek Wedding. He plays the intended
The doctor or the other guy, the DJ.
the DJ.
The DJ. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, the doctor didn't go on and do anything, did he? Did he do something after Northern Exposure?
Not that I know of, but I'm not the best person to ask about
Yeah.
that.
I think
lose
his love
track.
interest did. She went on to something else. The one that,
Oh, yeah.
forget her name, but yeah, no, it was a great show. It's loosely based on this Tom Bodett book, Greg. I don't know if you've ever read The End of the Road, but I kid you not, it'll just crack you up. Just the characters in this little town are just outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very funny book.
So this is Tom Bodett, The End of the World,
End of the Road.
End of the Road,
End of the road.
and
Homer,
it
Alaska was the end of the road. I'm pretty
okay,
sure
and it
of that.
reminds you of Northern Exposure. Okay, or
Yes,
it is
I
based on
think
it.
it's loosely based on
Yeah.
it. I think they do give a nod to the End of the Road book.
Excellent. Okay, thank you for that.
It's very funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's very funny.
And I do have some AI related information to share with you today because earlier this week,
good.
OpenAI announced that they would be moving up market. So right now, OpenAI has a free offering. They have their $20 per month plus, I think, pro offering or
Mm-hmm.
whatever they call it. And then they have their $200 a month
Right.
plus offering. They are going up market and they will have 3 additional plans that you can subscribe to moving forward. They've not released them yet, and there's no timeline that they've given. But generally speaking, OpenAI moves fast enough that we don't have to think this is a year away, right? It's much sooner than that. These 3 plans will range from $1,000 a month to $20,000 a month. And at the $20,000 a month level, they are describing this plan as a PhD research assistant for you. And so these plans are no longer straight what we would consider to be chat GPT plans. These are agentic workers. These are agents. And the best way to think about agents, at least for me, is a series of if this, then that. And we remember one of the very first services that allowed us to connect disparate platforms together was if this, then that. If my garage door opens, then turn the air conditioning on in the summer or something along those lines,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there are a lot of those kinds of services out there. And I've been looking for something like an agentic worker, something that I could say to it, here's the prompt, but really what I want you to do is go out to this external service and this external service and this one. OpenAI showed something like this off about a year ago at one of their keynotes, in which it was a recipe that ChatGPT presented to the user, and then the user said, "Great, I need these ingredients at my house." It communicated with Instacart and then had the ingredients delivered to the home, which is great. But that feature doesn't exist today. It was just something that they showed off at a keynote, and it remains vaporware. It sounds to me like these additional paid plans, especially the PhD research assistant plan at about 20 grand a month, are going to be the kinds of really, really deep thinking agentic workers that people are looking for today. But at that kind of a price point, what are they going to get? 7 customers?
I don't know.
So I have a question for you, Greg. Mark Stiving, who we've had on the show, pricing guy.
Yeah.
He in his newsletter, I think from this Monday, talked about the pricing of AI, not pricing with it, but the pricing of, like, how does OpenAI price, how they should think about it. And he made a distinction between a platform and a solution. And he said QuickBooks is a solution. OpenAI is a platform, Perplexity, all of that. And he said solutions sell more than platforms for higher price. They have more pricing power. Because with a platform, it's really hard to figure out how to price discriminate and charge the people who use it more and more and all of that. And I'm just thinking, when we step up into these higher OpenAI tiers that you were talking about, is there going to come a point where you'll be able just to have them custom develop, like, give me a platform that does, or give me a solution for tax research or some deep, topic, just one thing maybe,
Yeah.
like a medical issue or whatever. Do you
Yeah,
see that with some of these platforms?
I don't doubt it. And I think what you've described to me in more elegant terms with an example is what OpenAI is saying that they're looking forward to charging for in their PhD level research assistant. I do agree that the platform versus solution argument in terms of pricing favors solutions. If you look at Amazon Web Services today, right? You can run a very simple server on Amazon Web Services for pennies a day, right? So, for example, when Google Reader shut down many years ago, and I'm still really pissed off about Google making that choice. I think a lot of us are, right? But at any rate, I thought, okay, this is never going to happen to me again. I'm going to go out to AWS and I'm going to spin up my own reader service with my own RSS aggregator, right? And I ran it for months and months and months, and I think on the high end I paid $7 one month for the consumption of compute from Amazon Web Services. And then my kids got into Minecraft, and I spun up a Minecraft server on AWS. And I think at most I paid $3 one month on the high end for access to the compute associated with Minecraft. So in my experience, not trying to scale it, just in it as a single individual, it's always been significantly cheaper to go to AWS as a platform as opposed to finding a solution.
That's interesting.
So, Greg, I want to make sure I understand. There's still going to be we're going to still be able to use ChatGPT as is. This $1,000 a month is just going to have additional features. They're probably not going to take anything away from us per se, or
Yeah. That's as I understand it. Yes, because what they're talking about is really stringing together. When people say agents or agentic workers these days, the easiest way to think about it, because this is all new to us and we're not quite sure how to contextualize this stuff. For me, the easiest way to do it is to think of multiple prompts strung together along with logic branches, and that's your agent. That's your agentic worker. They know how to reason through a branch of logic given what you told them and what you want your end result to be.
Okay.
Right now,
so,
you sort of have to walk GPT through that.
Right. So now I want to bring you into a conversation that Ron, you and I talked about this, but I've been talking about this with a couple of people this week. If I'm a CPA firm and I'm paying ChatGPT $20,000 a month for an agentic worker that does the following. Client, you upload your PDF files of all of your stuff, your W-2, everything you got. Produce a tax return based on this tax code. You think that's available for the tax year 2025?
Ed, you brought this up maybe 2 weeks ago, right? And it dawned on me then. So I haven't put a tremendous amount of thought into this because you raised my awareness about this. There is no doubt that can't happen. And you're right. For your simple tax returns, like think about your 1040s, right?
I'm even thinking now your complex returns.
Now think about your complex returns. And if you have a PhD level research assistant, and by the way, the reason I keep using that phrase is because that's the phrase OpenAI uses when they describe these new plans, right? If you have a PhD level research assistant in the background and you're paying $20,000 a month, the game is on. Right? How many returns can you run in a single month to make up the $20,000 plus your profit?
You know how many people that would replace, Ed? Because it could run 24/7. Just keep. The constraint would be the client's uploading. It would probably be idle half the time.
Well, it's that and the conflicting tax code. That's the issue.
Yep.
I as I see it, right? Because here's my question: should Dan Morris even be worried about this?
It's a really interesting question. I would imagine, Greg, you'd be able to not only upload the current documents, but also last year's tax return, so it would have a base. And then if you had devised some type of strategy in between those 2 years, give it the strategy and it'll incorporate that into the 2024 preparation.
Yeah. And I'm all for this in terms of an idea that's likely to happen. I'm not saying that I want it to happen, but it's inevitable, right? So I think the idea is much closer to reality than we would believe it is. But the word replace, right? How many people will it replace? I have to be honest, it will weed out those that are not effective. And those that replace them will be the ones that are really good at what they do, the ones who can devise the strategy and say, okay, OpenAI, this is the strategy from baseline tax return to this year's tax return. These are the nuances, and this is what I want you to work through. Those individuals who are critical thinkers and experts in their space will thrive in an environment like this. The people that will be replaced, quote unquote, are those that are phoning it in and maybe shouldn't have been in the business anyway.
Greg,
I hate to be so flippant about that. And like, I know that we're talking about human beings here, but yeah.
No, isn't for OpenAI to get 20 grand a month, they have to set their sights higher on rather than just automating tasks faster.
Yeah.
They have to set their sights on, we got to replace individuals. Period. The whole thing, the whole job goes away.
Yeah, 20 grand a month, you have to make some serious consideration for the, because you're going to run that at an annual rate, and that's a knowledge worker.
Oh yeah.
If it dumps 4 people, it's already paid it for itself twice over more.
Yep. Yeah, but remember, AI will not replace you. People who were good at using AI.
Yeah,
will
right,
replace you.
right.
Yeah. This there's going to be a diffusion curve, so the people that jump on this are going to have a leg up. Well, I think that takes this to a whole new level.
Yeah.
That's why I brought it up. I'm excited about the idea. And remember the very first time you used ChatGPT, you were blown away. You couldn't believe it.
I'm continue to be blown away.
I was blown away this morning.
The first time. Yeah. Yesterday, blown away again.
This morning. Yeah. No, it continues to blow my mind.
Yeah.
But it also blows my mind how creative it makes me think. It just spits something at you and you look at it and you go, that's good, but what about if we did this? And then it comes back at you with something and you just go, oh, geez, that's brilliant.
Amazing. And I've been through now. I'm old enough. I'm old man yells at clouds old enough to have been through a few technology cycles. In the very first one I went through as an adult was the .com boom. And out of college, I remember this very clearly. If you were a political science major, if you were a business major, if you were an engineering, it didn't matter. You became a web developer because it was $88 an hour. You were 20, 21, 22 years old, and you're like, yeah, I'll take the money, right? So software development, web development, right? And I remember telling my father at the time what I was doing, right? And he was like, that. People pay you to do this?
To do that?
Right? He was he was stunned, right? That this was a thing. This was a well-paying job, right? And I didn't feel the same level of excitement about the cryptocurrency, about anything really related to cryptocurrency technology, right? But I do feel the same level of excitement about AI. It feels comparable to this shift in the way in which we think and work. The web was a significant shift in the way in which we think and work, and AI is likely to be even more impactful on us than we even recognize.
It's early days too.
It is, yeah. And I don't mean to speak so. I mean, I'm excited about it, and I don't want to go overboard. But at the same time, I mean, I've incorporated AI into so much of what we do. If you ripped it out of my hands, I would be wildly inefficient tomorrow.
Yeah. How much would you pay if you were not allowed to use AI ever again?
Oh my gosh. That's an excellent question. Yep. And also, you talked a little bit about the 3%, 0.3% GDP to 3% GDP, and could AI take us to 30%? Again, I'm trying not to be an excited idiot about this, but it feels potentially that impactful. And we are still very early days, right? We forget that sometimes. Right? Apple, for example, announced that their next generation
Siri, I have this one. Go ahead. Yeah.
Which is internally being called Siri LLM, right? Is not coming out in 2025. It's not coming out in 2026. It's probably coming out in 2027.
Probably.
To which most people say, "Are you insane?"
That's like 2 decades in this world. It's like dog years. Or
it
something.
Could be centuries. 2 centuries.
Wow.
However,
Apple might as well be a winery at this point.
when I think about the investment Apple has not made in the purchase of NVIDIA, massive amounts of NVIDIA chips, when I think about the most things they've avoided, their AI notifications on the phone are freaking terrible, right? Like they're horrible. I look at them and they're like, in fact, the BBC got really pissed off at them and said, your AI summaries of our news articles they're not just misleading, they're wrong. Please stop.
Yeah, there was one that like that combined two things together that was like I guess there's probably a whole website now which is
Probably, right? So they've stepped in it a little bit, but many other companies have stepped in it significantly more because they're rushing to push the technology out. And I don't feel like Apple is right in waiting until 2027 to put something in front of us that is useful to the average consumer. But I'm definitely not betting against them yet. I will begin to bet against them towards the end of 2025, no doubt. Apple has proven that Siri is the most mismanaged product in the history of the company. And it seemingly just keeps getting worse. And now they're telling us that we won't have a better version until 2027. To me, that feels like an eternity. To me, that feels like they should just put a whiskey in a barrel and wait for 10 years and be like, look at the great thing we created. Maybe they prove us wrong, and moving as quickly as the industry is right now is not the right approach. I feel like it is, but maybe Apple has the right approach, and I don't know.
I can see that for like a big four accounting firm, hitting the pause button on AI just to see, let the market kind of unfold and play out for a while, and then make a decision whether to buy or build or whatever it is. But I can't see Apple doing that.
You're a technology company.
Yeah, you're supposed to be in that fray of getting things to happen.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's a real estimate of when this Siri LLM platform will be released. So to all of those, and this is interesting to me because Apple runs Apple Intelligence commercials. They are encouraging people to spend on their products based on the promise of Apple Intelligence.
Yeah.
Wow. And they're keeping the name Siri, you think?
I would prefer they not, but it looks like they are. I mean, it is a tarnished sub-brand. There's no other way to describe it.
This is from Spreen_CO, the Twitter account user, and he posted a text summary that he got from his now ex-girlfriend. This is what it said: "We are no longer in a relationship. Want your belongings from the apartment."
That is 100% true and verified. Journalists tracked him down. This is early days of Apple Intelligence. Journalists tracked him down, interviewed him, and he was a pretty good sport about it. He's like, this is what it said.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
A little harsh, but succinct and to the point, I suppose. Yeah.
So I have the sort of the weekend off this weekend. I'm helping a friend who's in town, but nothing formally planned next weekend. I'm taking the Boy Scouts rock climbing. I'm really looking forward to that. But I'll still be here on Friday afternoon for the show, and then we'll bug out of town immediately after that. So for now, get into your stacks. You guys have a bonus episode to record.
Yes, we do. All right,
Greg.
and we're gonna cut the live stream. All right, thanks, Greg.